All right, everybody, welcome to. This is sort of like PR, but not really because it's playoffs. This is the playoff overview and predictions. So round one of the playoffs, or the wild card round, as we call it, is done. So we're gonna go into talk about the matches and then talk about the matches, the upcoming matches as well. And I have Mr. Batista here with me.
Yes. How are you? And hopefully this is fun and we can kind of go over some of these matches.
Yep. So I guess let's hop into it. So we had a string of 2-0s or 0-2s this wildcard round. Kind of crazy, kind of crazy. They
Yeah,
weren't.
the really interesting thing is that if you look on the left and the left is actually all the second seeds and the right is all the wild card teams. And we actually not only had a sweep all 2-0s, but all wild card teams 2-0'd the second
Wow,
seeds.
I didn't even notice that. So it's going. So we're going all first seeds up against all wild cards.
Yeah, it definitely was a very interesting match, and kind of goes into our joke that was in Discord of how this entire thing is just rigged.
It was all planned. There's no actual competition. It's all planned out. Um, Well, I mean, I guess let's hop into and talk about the specific matches real quick. Blazekins against the Drowsy Dracozolt. The Drowsy Dracozolt, I mean, if you watch the match, to sum it up, Light Screen and Stack Attack was horrible to deal with for the Blazekins. And I thought that was a really good ring from the Dracozolt. I didn't see the Stack Attack as much. A lot of the times they relied on the Octillery or like a Trick Room mode, but this time they just went screens, bulky stack, bulky brick house, and it worked really well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think one of the big things is that the Blazekins kind of realized that a lot of the threats that they were consistently bringing are a little bit weak on the special side, and so they decided kind of went all in on a choice specs Inte with eruption, and that kind of backfired really bad for them because not only did they bring multiple Pokemon that they normally don't bring, like Stakataka and Gastrodon and Snorlax, which have come but not super much compared to a lot of the other ones. They also had Light Screen and Assault Vest on the Stakataka.
So it was just not getting hurt by spell. The eruption was doing like 10% of its health, if I remember correctly. It was hitting the Rabombi, which is really nice. It just erased the Rabombi, but the stack was just taking no damage from that. Um,
Yeah, and was I gonna say, oh yeah, and then one of the things I was really impressed with on the Dracozolt side is that their lead was so hard for anything the Blazekins could have brought could to deal with because the Rabombi Staka with the Salt Vest Stakataka was so hard for them to deal with because Rabombi threatens Speed Swap to make Stakataka really fast. In addition, allows sets up screens in Light Screen or Reflect, and so basically it prevented Stakataka to be threatened from anything while also threatening a lot of very fast damage. And so the only thing that I think would have definitely was a possibility that could have helped the Blazekins is this choice scarf mon that was able to one shot Rabombi, but that's a little bit hard to read because Rabombi frequently runs Focus Sash.
yeah, it's kind of that's really hard to deal with because I don't think it ran Sash though, did it?
No, it ran Light Clay for the screens.
But you're always thinking it might have Sash, so you don't want to assume that you can just scarf and take it out right away. Um, but yeah, it was that was I forgot about that eruption Entei. I actually kind of like that play. It just doesn't do anything to the Gastrodon or the it didn't do too much to the stack. Well, with the set that the Dracozolt had, it wasn't doing that much.
Oh yeah, and then I think one of the big things that I think ended up hurting the Blazekins really badly game two was the Gastrodon behind Light Screen took so little from an eruption that the Blazekins thought the Gastrodon was Assault Vest. And so that completely messed up their game plan into the Stack Attacka game too, because they didn't realize Stack Attacka was the one that was actually holding the Assault Vest until, way too late into the match.
I always thought the Dragozolts were going to be a scary team, and
Uh-huh.
they kind of I mean, just thinking about their matchup, I mean, Gastrodon just looks insane into their team. I mean, once you take out the Rotom, it just looks almost unstoppable.
Yeah, I think they had Solar Beam on the Entei to possibly deal with it, but they I don't think I can't recall exactly, but I believe they never were able to get up Sun in the matchup this week either.
Yeah, that doesn't help because then it can just like protect, um, and then they can never hit a solar beam. Um, well, I think this was. I don't know if it was. I don't know what the predictions were if this was an upset or not. I mean, I guess.
So I think this was so going on last week. I think this was our only one that we got that we got right. That we thought that the Blaze the Drake results seemed like it had an advantageous team matchup.
I would say they did it, and they really capitalized on it. I mean, they looked really good there, and they squeaked into the playoffs, and then they proved that they're rightfully here.
Yeah.
So I dig it. It's the next matchup was a rematch. It was a season rematch, um, and I know that I mean the auto has just been a monster in this league, and the Wailords they really wanted this win and they were able to pick it up. I don't know. What do you think were the big key factors in the play and the prep?
I don't know. So I think one of the big things, kind of this game and the last game, was information. Was like hiding information and not revealing the information. So game one, the Wellords had Scarf, me, and Shao, and they were able to do a couple things, and were able to show that or never reveal that it was Choice Scarf in the entirety of game one. And so it made them have a very safe lead game two, leading me and Zhao again because um, the Tricos had no way to kind of know that it was going to be Choice Scarf. And so they had a couple, they made a decision, which is the assumption that Slazzle was going to be faster than me and Xiao, which is wrong because it was holding a Choice Scarf. And it completely gave them a huge advantage in the opening turns of game two. And from there, the Wellers kind of had a pretty convincing game two win off of it. And then kind of similar to the Assault Fest in the previous match. But other than that, I think it was just kind of um, the Wellers able to kind of get rid of the major damaging threat on the Trico side, and then kind of from there, able to kind of just clean up.
Yeah. Something I think about like the Tricos team is that, or just Auto in general, like as a player in general. Hey, like you rarely see him not have some sort of pressure, and if he doesn't have pressure, he has a way to get out of it. And um, I think the Wailords, the way their team is, you almost have no way to control the first turn against the Wailords. Like they just have inner focus. They have a Ghost Mon for they can avoid fake out. That's a Trick Room Center. They have multiple inner focus Pokemon. They have fake out. There's almost no way to really control turn one against them. And I mean, Otto probably knew this, but I thought it was a really good job of the Whalers to, like, I guess not let Otto take pressure, like, you know, um, like capitalize and really start to steamroll against him, and the Whalers just kept up, and then they were able to make a surge of their own, and it's in game one at least. The game two was I think a little more just on the side of the Whalers.
Yeah, I think one of the big things, in addition to this, was just speed control on the Wellard side. They got Tailwind up pretty early, and then I think they had Dragon Dance on their Flygon, which was
I
really
like that.
big, and that definitely put it into a situation. I think game two, I think they had a pretty good read where they got a free Dragon Dance off, and the Flynn at that point, the Flygon was just kind of completely, terrifying for the Trico side because it was outspeeding their entire team and it was threatening pretty much everything. Um, and then another one that was pretty fun set is just the weakness policy. Tapu Fini also, it was able to take a Life Orb Thunderbolt from Thunderous and then just did huge amounts of damage.
Yeah, it was nice. He brought a bit of a spicy set with the Tapu Fini, which I like because Tapu Fini is just so strong with just the standard like Calm Mind sets with just stab, Calm Mind, protect, or things like that. But it's so when it, I guess it makes it even stronger when you bring something sort of unexpected. Um, that was a really nice bring, and he got muddy. He got the muddy water. You gotta live by the muddy water, die by the muddy water, and he won. So congrats again. Beating Otto is not easy. I I have yet to do it. So myself. So I know how hard that can feel going up against that. It probably feels good to win. Um, yeah, I guess we'll hop into the next match, or hop into the discussion about the next match, which was the Ice Cues versus the Bashers. Um, this was a crazy set. It was a little bit weird too. Um, there's so many things to talk about here. I mean, Gert's team is like he's Captain Bulk. Like this team is so bulky, so annoying and stally, so hard to deal with. Like he has multiple mons that can just 1v4. He likes to play the switchy game. It was a bit of awkward for the Bashers, I think. They didn't bring the heat more, so everybody thought it was an instant loss for them, but they ended up pulling out the 2-0. I don't know what do you think were big moments in this matchup?
So the biggest one that I'd like to point to is just in game two, the trick on of Choice Scarf onto the Cresselia. I think it was on turn one, but it might have been like turn two, with from the Orbeetle, was definitely a huge deal. It basically made the Cresselia almost completely useless the entirety of the game because the Cresselia had like Moonlight, Sunny Day, um, and I can't remember one other supporting move, and so it became very you know kind of almost useless with that trick. And then not only that, the Orbeetle, even though it was Choice Scarf, had recover on its set, which like I said, I think I said this in chat at some point, is definitely not the most obvious and not the most common thing for someone to do because recover is a really bad move to Choice Scarf into. So it's definitely with the expectation that it might choice scarf away the or trick away the choice scarf. And so basically, once Cresselia was down and they were able to kill the Blaziken, the Orbeetle was basically just 3v1. Even though they had other Pokemon, it basically just 3v1 the team.
Yeah, I rewatched that match from Gert's side, and so I saw the match twice, and it just looked like after that trick, it just looked so bad for Gert. I mean, that was a really nice tech, and yeah, like with the recover, it's like you said, trick is usually, at least in my experience, like sort of a tech you add on to a choice mon, like a mon that has coverage moves, and then maybe it'll tech on trick for like an extra sort of a backup situation. Whereas the Orbeetle recover set, it was almost like the plan was to trick, like that was the plan. Because if you're gonna have recover, I mean, and scarfing into psychic and struggle bug, I mean, struggle bug maybe it might not be that bad, but thought it was a really good idea. And then the struggle bug recover, just vicious into Gerd's team. Um, it would be interesting. I don't know if the Bashers would have won without tricking the Cresselia. Um, so it was a big time play, and they couldn't switch out even if they expected it. They couldn't switch out because it was whirlpooled by the Swampert, which was a
Yep.
really a
Yeah.
nice bring.
Yeah. The Swampert set was pretty cool with the Whirlpool kind of sticking them in, getting some passive damage. It definitely was a little bit awkward damage wise due to the sunny day on the Cresselia. Because game one ended up coming down into this strange end game where it was Swampert and Persian against Cresselia and no, just Cresselia. Cresselia versus Swampert and Persian. And so there was just passive whirlpool damage, and Cresselia was at like -6 special attack from Orbeetle from earlier on in the game, and so Cresselia kept on getting yawned by Swampert, and Swampert I think was also burned, and so this game just was slowly going down. There was so much passive damage from burns and whirlpools, and I think it ended up coming down to basically what a very sad misplay on Gert's side, where Gert psychicked into Persian, hoping to get some extra damage for timer's sake, and Swampert ended up surviving on like I think 1 HP give or take. You know, maybe it was like 3, but basically survived on like 4 HP after taking burn damage, and ended up losing because the Bashers had 2 Pokemon instead of the one side on the SQ side. And if they would have psychic into the Swampert, then the Swampert would have died, and I think would have won on HP.
Yeah, I think it was. I can't remember exactly like the turn by turn what happened, and I think Goomer went for the read, the protect on the Swampert when he just could have yawned, and then protected. And I don't know if he wins the game at that point, but there was like a misplay there, and then, but then on Gert with the counter misplay, the counter blunder, going for
Well,
the Persian.
yeah. So I think what happened was, yeah, Gert Sunny Dayed so that Moonlight would heal more, and Goomer protected, expecting a psychic, and then Gert um, Moonlight, and I think Goomer went for a second protect, I think, or maybe it's the other way around, but and then ended, or no, I think he went for the yawn that turn, and then yeah, and then the psychic would have went into the Persian instead of the Swampert, and Swampert surviving at 4.
Yeah, I think he. I don't know. That game was so close, and Goomer's time actually pretty much ended as the game time was up, so it was very very close. And then he ended up winning on HP, I think. So
Well, Pokemon, because they had the Swampert.
oh, it was still alive. Oh, it didn't go down to burn.
Yeah, so it was
That's right.
Swampert and
Yeah, that's
Persian,
right. Yeah.
and so yeah, uh, yeah, it would Gert would have won on HP if Swampert would have gone down on the burn damage, but it did not.
Oh, really? I guess
Yes.
Swampert. Yeah, Swampert has a lot of HP, and
Well, so the first tiebreaker is the number of Pokemon remaining,
yeah,
and
and then it's
so
max team HP.
yeah, exactly, and so regardless of yeah, so regardless of how much HP was left on Goomer's side, because they had more Pokemon, they won.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess if he took out the Swampert, I don't know. I would. I don't know if they calculated it, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was definitely close, but I think Cresselia and Gert would have won that one, because Persian doesn't have the most HP, and Cresselia seemed to have more HP than Persian did at the time. But obviously it's hard to tell exactly. The game would have decided, but you know, uh, the it definitely was a very interesting game, and I understand. I think Gert hit psychics into Persian a couple times, and if any of those psychics went into Swampert, they would have actually ended up winning this game. But I think the idea was they thought it was more likely for them to kill Swampert, but the Persian slowly lowering the special attack with Skitter Smack ended up definitely, making that move ended up not being correct.
I also think like one crit, wins the game for
Oh
Gert.
yes,
And also, yeah, as bad as it looked game 2 after the tricking choice scarf, if Primarina got like a crit or two, maybe even just one, like with a Moonblast, there was some opportunities where they could have taken down the Orbeetle potentially, and that would have been game changing. So, I mean, good job for Gert for sticking it out, because I mean that could have been very well like a lucky crit there, dude. It's you're back in the game. That would have been
oh yeah,
insane.
no, yeah. Orbeater, I think was at some point was like at like 2-3 HP, and was able to recover back up. And if that was a different damage roll or a crit, that definitely could have gone into Gert's favor.
Well, congrats to another wildcard team with another 2-0 win. I guess we'll get on with the final match. I actually just watched this one. This one was some really cool tech by the Kingdras. I liked tech on both sides. I thought in this matchup, the Chandelure is like one of the Pokemon that Registeel just has the hardest time with because it can't body press it, just gets absolutely destroyed by Chandelure's special attacks and or like the like an overheat or something from Chandelure. It's disgusting. So the Chandelure looked really good here, but the Kingdras didn't rely on it. They brought some other spicy stuff. And it was kind of crazy. The match started out like the Mimikyus. I thought their first 2 or 3 turns of game one looked really nice. Like they taunted the Togepi, and then they were able to taunt the Reuniclus after Trick Room. He'd set up Trick Room and try to go for a Calm Mind. So already the Kingdras were not looking like they were in very good position at all. But they were able to bring it back. And I don't know if you. I feel like the Mimikyus may have slightly misplayed by going for the Heat Wave at the end of game one.
So I understand the idea behind it. I think the idea was um, they wanted to get a little damage on both of them with the hopes to be able to double up. I agree. I think the idea in their mind when they did it was they said, "Oh, Shadow Ball is resisted by Scrafty, Heat Wave is not," and then they kind of did the obvious play, which is Heat Wave, but with this with the rain being up, Shadow Ball was notably the better move in that situation for finishing off the Scrafty. And so, I understand the idea. It's probably a little bit of misplay, but it's like one of those that instinctively it makes sense why you would do that move.
Yeah, I think they also could have. I'm trying to think if they double the Pelipper or something. Maybe that's. I don't know. That I want to say it was a misplay that cost him that game, but couldn't have been closer. Like, the Scrafty poison, the Giga Drain didn't quite finish off the Scrafty. The burn Scrafty went for the poison jab, and the Blossom didn't quite take it out, but the Blossom went down to the poison. And I think that's because of it outsped, right? Because the Scrafty was burned, but right, and the Blossom took the. I don't know how that works.
So I think no, I'm pretty sure Scrafty was undersped the Blossom, but I think the Blossom was just at such low HP that it didn't do much. I think there was a play in the last turn. Last turn of the game, it was Blossom and Scrafty out, and Scrafty was burned and at about like, what maybe about a quarter HP. I don't know exactly, but and so the Blossom went for a Giga Drain. I think it was a Giga Drain.
Yeah.
To with the expectation that it was going to kill, and it just barely survived. I think the Blossom did have Strength Sap on its move pool, and I think Strength Sap probably would have gotten it the win. But obviously, it's pretty easy to say like, oh, it's so little HP. I'm just going to go for the damaging move because it seems like a pretty clean kill, and it ended up not working out for them.
Yeah, and it was kind of a crazy end game because I think they were both like within. They both had like 4 or 5 health, but the Blossom went down first to its after turn damage.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because of speed.
Well, yeah. So if both Pokemon are going to die from a effect, the faster one will die first, or like
And,
will
and
die.
I don't know if I've ever been in that situation myself, so I didn't quite know that when I was watching the game. I keep learning things.
Yeah. And then game 2 was pretty interesting. I think it ended up being pretty convincing win on the Kingdra side. I think what ended up happening was some really good reads on the Kingdra side. I think they read into a Thunderbolt into the Pelipper slot and switched into Jolteon, got a free switch in there. I think they weatherballed into Blossom, expecting them to set up a sunny day, and the fire weather ball ended up one-shotting the Blossom. Because even though rain was up at that time, they did a water weather ball into Blossom, expecting it to be sunny, a fire move. And then after and then generally speaking, they kind of were able to just do a bunch of damage, and then yeah, there was a couple of plays like that I think kind of switched the momentum dramatically into the Kingdra side.
Yeah, the Jolteon was like not a Pokemon I don't think I saw from the Kingdras much throughout the season, and it was a monster in that game too. I really, really liked the stockpile Pelipper set. Looking at the Mimikyu's team, like that actually looks really, really good. So I'm not surprised they brought it. I mean, it doesn't look good into Whimsicott. I mean, Whimsicott can taunt it, but Pelipper can just Hurricane the Whimsicott. I mean, the really the only thing that looked good was the Thunderbolt Starmie, and I think the Kingdras probably knew that, and so they made the proper read, switched out for the Jolteon, which was so nice because if their only threat was an electric threat, then they can. That's a free switch to Jolteon, which I loved, and then not only that, but they could switch the Pelipper back in, reset weather, and then the Jolteon could just weather ball the Chandelure. It was perfectly executed by the Kingdras in a really, really cool kind of game plan. Yeah, so a big win. Big win. I'd say 4 big wins here.
Yeah, no, these were all very interesting games. Even though they're 2-0s, they definitely, I would say that, most of them were very close. Like, as we mentioned, the Mimikyus and the SQs could both seem like they had a very good chance to win game one. If they played slightly differently on the last turn of the game, they might have been able to get the win. And who knows what would happen in game three. And game one and two, and the other two matches seem to be incredibly close. With the team winning ended up kind of hiding a little bit of information, and that information I think ended up being the reason why they won the game, the set.
Yeah, that I mean that just really, really helps with a game. Like game one's gaining information is so huge, and you see it benefiting some teams here. Um, I guess we'll move on to the second round of playoffs.
Yeah. So the top teams are the number one seeds. Those are the teams that had buys, including you and the Tyranitar Sasas. So below each of these teams are their respective matches this week.
Just look at the diversity and all the logos here. It's fantastic. Love it. Yeah, they're well. I guess we'll hop into the matchups. The first one is the old brotherly the brotherly duel. Doug Bros facing off. I didn't want to. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't want to play Goomer, mainly because we're just so inside each other's heads. I guess I have the same advantage that he does.
I don't know.
He knows.
Not only are you so, just your teams also just feel so similar. You both have like the Doug Trio, the Legendary Bird, the Weather Mode, the Grass Redirection Pokemon.
I didn't even think about the grass redirection, but well, something about our teams, and they actually are very similar, and I guess I'll tell you why. Like, I mean, aside from just the Doug Trio and the weather and the birds, these teams, and I know because I prep myself, and then I've also talked to Goomer about his prep, and he's talked about mine. Both these teams struggle against teams that have a lot of control up front. Like if you notice Goomer's team, he doesn't have a ghost type, and he only has one fake out user, and he doesn't have inner focus. Like he doesn't like fake out. And I mean, Hydreigon, which is a nice, it's dark type. It's immune to Prankster, but it's also super weak to fairies, and it's awkward to use. I don't know. There's just things like that where, I mean, if you watch Goomer's games, I feel like his represent this style of play more than mine do, but maybe we both do. You don't have as much control on turn one as you'd like, so you have to play for turn 2 and 3, and you have to play for your mons in the back. And I think it's weird that we're both kind of have those somewhat style of teams, and we're going head to head. It's going to be really interesting, and I think both of us have a lot of different combinations of Pokemon that we can bring.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at this, like it seems like such a tricky match to prepare for and to play, because the easiest one to point out is, kind of the weather modes. It's like both of y'all have weather modes, and both of y'all's weather modes threaten each other's weather modes really well. The
Yeah.
Polyrath does huge damage to the Arc Result. The Arc Result does huge damage to the Poly to Wrath. You know, the Fairy coverage on the Ninetales does good damage to the Polyrath, and it has freeze dry. And it's like, it's and then you can kind of do that for a lot of things. It's like, oh, the Moltres does pretty good into Zapdos, but Zapdos outspeeds it, and Moltres doesn't have the best defense. It has more of a special defense, and but Moltres flying coverage does good damage into it, and it's like, you kind of do that with so many different things. This matchup is going to be very interesting, in my opinion.
It's gonna be wild. Yeah, it's gonna be a wild matchup, and we know it.
So
So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't have much more to say. I'll
oh yeah,
save my comments for the game and for the prep and all that stuff.
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we have too much to comment because this is your match, so I think it's pretty fair to switch on before I trick you into talking too much
The,
about your game plan.
this is kind of crazy though. I mean, we both have a water flying. We both have a Galarian bird. We both have a Dugtrio. We both have a weather mode. We both have multiple water Pokemon. We both have a grass redirection user. Um, I don't know. We both have a psychic trick room user. Like, this is it's kind of crazy. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no, definitely.
I'm trying to point out anything else, but I think that's probably it. Um, but yeah, I guess we'll move on to the other matchups. Um, let's see. We got another like sort of a crazy matchup here because I believe Chad and Dylan are good buds. So
Yeah, they're roommates. They actually did a team building video together where they helped build each other's teams.
oh wait, I didn't see that. Oh, I saw that it was up and I watched like a minute of it and my phone died. So and I never went back to it. I'll see it. I'll see it eventually. But yeah, this is. I mean, they. I'm assuming if they're anything like me and Goomer, they probably talk a lot of Pokemon with each other. They probably know how each other plays and how they prep and some of their secret tech that they haven't revealed and things like that. So this matchup is going to be like 75 layers of mind games. And just looking at the teams, I mean, another sort of weather war could potentially be coming. And two very deep teams. I don't know what sticks out to you here in the matchups.
Uh, I don't know. So the first thing that I think the easiest can kind of check out on is just the Reggie Steel on the Kingdras because that's kind of their most used Pokemon, and the you know Ninetales and the Tapu Lele on the Sun Warriors because those are kind of their big ones. And looking at this, I feel like actually wait, I'm pretty sure these they played each other earlier this season. Let me double check this.
I thought they
I'm
didn't.
I feel like I saw this match before.
Maybe they did. Maybe they did
One second.
actually.
They did play each other.
And I think
Okay.
Chad win?
So the Sun Warriors 1-3. It was a 3-game set. So this is a replay. I forgot about this
Oh,
replay.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, let's see. So yeah, this match was very interesting if I recall. Um Basically what ended up coming is Ninetales was huge at dealing with um the what ended up being a hell mode on the Kingdra side in their week, um, which is pretty interesting because I believe they ended up getting rid of their hell mode. Um, they used to have Ninetales on the Kingdras used to have Ninetales on their team, and so
Or the Vulpix, the Alolan
the
Vulpix or
Vulpix,
whatever.
yeah, Alolan Vulpix.
I,
Um, but yeah, so this was definitely an interesting match. I recall the Nidoking ended up being a really huge component on the Sun Warrior side.
mm-hmm.
It threatened um, the Reggie Steel incredibly, and it also threatened, um, it threatened a couple other things, and so basically it kind of became this very interesting game where um, the Sun Warriors really had only one answer to Reggie Steel, and the Kingers only really had one answer to that answer, and then that person only had one answer to that answer, and it kind of became this game where you really need to get rid of one Pokemon, and you kind of take a huge advantage because like every Pokemon that they brought kind of answered a different specific Pokemon on that person's team.
And in those games, it's like positioning is so important because like when one of your mons goes down, then that's an answer to one of your opponent's mons, and then they know that, and then they can get that mon in good position, and then they can take advantage of it. And it's really difficult. Both of these teams, I think, have ways to. They both have weather. They both have a couple mons that are some high power offense, but they also have a good amount of bulk. Like they have some bulky kind of weapons, so I think those are going to come in handy. Um,
But yeah, so like I think the big thing you kind of go with is that I think the big thing you kind of see is that most of the major threats on each of the team has, I'd say, like a pretty clean counter to it. So like Ninetales,
yeah,
which is a big threat on the Sunways, has Pelipper's a really good answer to it. Registeel is a great Pokemon on the Kingdra side, but Nidoking is a great answer to it. And you can kind of do that for most of the major threats on their team. And so it's definitely going to be a very hard fought game. And I definitely think that I would say who is going to be very much think who's going to be playing better that day, and it's not going to be as much on the specific team and the specific prop per se. I think it's going to be mainly on who plays the best that day.
I agree. I think this is going to be a grueling match. Like I have no idea. It could be a 2-1 either side. It could be a 2-0 either side. It could be I don't know. I have no idea how to predict this game, how this is going to play out, and that's what I love. I'm just gonna have to watch and see when it comes out. All right, matchup number 3. We've got Gumi and the Rolled Gold Pretzels. Going against the Drowsy Dracozolt. So, man, just I guess it makes sense because it's playoffs, but all these matchups are they're just so like there is never a clear advantage. I mean, I don't know. What do you take about from these matchups? Just the first impressions.
So first impression is that I think Gumi has not particularly liked their slower mode
Mm-hmm.
that much, and I think that is definitely something that I think the Drakeys have a pretty good ability to possibly take advantage of. And so I think that Gumi is going to need to be, pretty patient or have a good game plan at dealing with speed control. Especially because, you know, if you look at, the Draco's old side, they have like eight of their 11 Pokemon have under 50 speed or under 60 speed. And so if they get Trick Room up, they definitely I think have a pretty good advantage in that aspect. And um, there's not a huge amount I think they can do against it. And so I definitely think that this game, if I was to pick teams, I would probably go with the Drake results. But I definitely think Gumi has some fight against it. It's just gonna need to be well played on their side.
I would agree. I think if Gumi makes a game plan, he definitely could do some things against his team. And um, I mean, the Dragonzolds they kind of have to set up. Either the artillery or the stack attacka or something like that. They have combos that they like to go for, and if you can kind of shut that down, you can. I mean, you can take advantage of it. Um, the issue is that they have like 700 combos they can go for, and you never know what they're going to bring. So it's easier said than done. The pretzels, I feel like if they formulate a game plan that can do well into whatever the Dragonzolds bring, they can for sure win. I mean, their team is very strong. That being said, I think if his game plan isn't sound and he's just kind of thrown out mons and he's not sure what to think of what the Dragonzolds bring, I think he could get beat, you know, pretty convincingly. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think obviously Gumi is a great player. They won first, and like they had the best record in the regular season. So we know they have some skill, but I definitely think it's going to be one of those matches where, um, you know, they need to play well. They need to make their decisions carefully, and so one small play I think is can definitely cost them a match. And and so hopefully Gumi can show that they aren't a choker because they've been telling everyone that they're a choker for the last week or two.
He's just trying to get everybody expecting the choke so that he can not choke. So he can prove everybody wrong. I think this is the number one overall, the season champ versus the player who just squeaked in the playoffs. I think with the last wild card.
Yes.
So I guess you could say first seed versus top seed versus bottom seed in the playoffs right now. But at this point, I don't even think of seeds. I mean, everybody's been playing. Anybody can take on anybody at this point, and everybody's teams looks really strong, and all these players are good.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess the thing it's like we have like four coaches that didn't make playoffs that are terrifying even in the playoffs. So like obviously everyone who made playoffs is terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so I guess the final matchup we can talk about is the Gurchins versus the Whalelords. Man, this is kind of the first time I'm seeing this matchup. Both of them have an inner focus fighting type with fake out. Both of them have a 120 speed starter mon. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely an interesting matchup. I don't like, especially because like if you kind of look at let's say a lot of their major modes, you can kind of see like some like they're both like good and bad at the same time. So like for example, you look at the Trick Room mode of the Gurchins. Like the Pincurchin and the Aromatisse looks pretty bad into the Steelix, for example, on the Wellord side. But Torkoal is pretty good into Steelix, honestly, because
Yeah.
and you can kind of do that with a couple things. So it's like like their like um, weather mode. It's like oh yeah, you know shiftery in the rain or in the sun can do pretty good into like let's say Tapu Fini, but Tapu Fini can also one shot Shiftry, so it's kind of and takes anything from Torkoal pretty well, and so it's like it's kind of definitely an interesting match here. I definitely think that one of the big things that I think is concerning for the Wellord side is that Zapdos seems very good, and Zapdos definitely been the most used Pokemon. I'm not like obviously they have the Raichu for to prevent its electric coverage, but its fire coverage seems pretty good if as well into a lot of their Pokemon. So I definitely think that I can imagine Zapdos doing a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams just have a lot of. They're just so deep. They've just got so many. Like they could. There's so many Pokemon that do so many different things, and I think they're both very comfortable going fast mode and going slow mode as well. Going Trick
Hmm.
Room or going fast. I think they're both comfortable and they both can be prepared for it. Um, and I guess we'll have to see who implements their game plan the best. This another matchup I really have no idea to expect here. Um, so many different things could happen.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. All these matches look very interesting. I think I don't know who most of these I definitely think are pretty close toss ups, but I definitely think that's like most of the season. I definitely feel like I have slight advantages on team compositions for a lot of these, but most of these then balance out a little bit by how good the coach that I think has the disadvantages, and it's kind of like but they're such a good coach, and I definitely see them getting through these slight team things because like most of these like I'd say it's like if it's advantage, it's like a 45-55 advantage.
Yeah, and I feel like a good coach recognizes what their weakness is, and then they just won't bring what they're super weak to. Like, um, they'll bring a lot of counters for it. They'll cover for it, and they might not have to. They might have to leave out their tier one mon or something like that. They might not bring the team that they really want to bring, but they'll find the best team for the matchup. Um, yeah, this one's gonna be a banger.
Yeah.
Whew.
So any last thoughts? Any teams in particular you think might make it or might win, or you think you want to see win?
I'd like to see the tartar sauces win. Um, although I think I'm 0-2 against Goomer. 0-2 against
Uh,
my brother. So I'm trying to even it out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a favorite to win, but I guess if are we making random predictions here, or not random
well,
predictions?
not necessarily random, but it's like, is there a match that you in particularly uh, think is going to be the most enjoyable to watch, or the one that you have the strongest feeling on your opinions or your pick 'em?
I mean, I don't have very strong opinions about who's going to take the wins. I think Chad and Dylan's match is going to be insane. It's going to be insanely
Okay,
fun,
there we go.
and I think, oh man, they're all going to be so good. What about you? What do you think is going to be really nice?
So the match I'm most excited to see is you versus Goomer. That match looks very interesting to me. It seems like a gameplay wise is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very tight and a lot of what I appreciate, like switching and smart defensive playing, with random like all out attacks that necessary. So I'm definitely most excited about y'all's match, and I'm definitely predicting whoever wins y'all's match makes it to the finals.
Well, I hope so, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, so far in the playoffs, we've had just grueling matches, and that's just how it's going to continue to be because it's VDL playoffs, and that's pretty much how they always are. Uh, yeah, I don't know. That matchup's going to be stressful. Um, but I guess I don't know. Do we have anything else to talk about?
No, I think that's all. Good luck on all the coaches, including yourself, and hopefully we get some good matches and hopefully fewer 2-0s this week. That would definitely be nice too.
I would doubt it. I will put some. I would make a bet. I don't know what the bet is, but I'd bet if all this week is 2-0s. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna bet that this entire week is 2-1s.
Okay, there you go. Your hot take. The hot take.
That's my hot take. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see. And like you said, good luck to everybody in their matches. And I guess we'll see you at the next video.
Yeah. Thank you for watching, everyone.